G'day and welcome to the Andrew Price Podcast, the podcast for serious artists. I am joined in this podcast episode by an ArtStation superstar, Mathias Zamecki. Mathias is a Polish art director with 10 years experience in the game, animation, and advertising field. He's been involved in a range of productions, providing work such as promo art, keyframes, character and environment design, and color scripting. For the last decades, he has worked at multiple studios, including Riot Games, Blizzard, MPC, Digital Domain, Aaron Sims Creative, Blur Studio, CD Projekt Red, and many, many more. In this wide-ranging discussion that I have with Mathias, we talk about breaking down some of the skills that make up great art. So this is a really, I really enjoyed this chat. And as with most interviews, it does take a little while before we get to the good stuff. So there's a little slower at the start, but stick around because it does, there is some really valuable learnings, I think, in this interview. So without further ado, here's Mathias. Mathias, thanks for joining us.
Hello, it's a pleasure to be here. Thank you so much for inviting me. I'm super happy.
Of course. And you are where? Where are we talking from?
I'm talking straight up from Poland, from Wrocław, Poland.
Okay, nice, awesome. So why don't we start at the start?
Sure.
Could you take us back to the beginning and maybe tell us sort of how you got first interested in art, and then how did you get here? I was always drawing, and like most of the artists, like back on the sketchbook and not paying attention to the class, being on your own world, like drawing back on the sketchbook. And back in the middle school, I think, my computer was so crappy that I wasn't able to play any games on it because it was so slow. So I started to play around a bit with Photoshop. I think it was version 7 or 6. Oh yeah, way back.
And I started doing this. I'm not sure if you remember from like old forum days, like you would be doing those small signature like banners.
Oh yes, everyone created their own little banner.
Yeah, exactly.
So like every single forum post had a little advertising underneath it. That was the good old days.
Yeah, exactly. So in the beginning, I was like making those small little banners for like forum peers.
Right. Okay.
And I was like learning how to add bevel and emboss to the text, and all the cool Photoshop tricks.
That was the rage, wasn't it? It was the bevel, it was the fire, the flame effect, all that stuff.
The flare,
people's minds.
the lens flare.
The lens flare. Oh my god! So what year was this when you started dabbling in that Photoshop?
2006.
Okay. Yep.
2005, something around that date. And then I was like, again, like not learning from school and like procrastinating and watching YouTube. Mm-hmm. And I discovered like around that time there was a hype for the Lost series, the TV show. And there was this guy on YouTube that drew John Locke from the Lost series on Wacom tablet in Photoshop, and I was like, you can draw in Photoshop. And he was like drawing first in black and white and then color this with this shitty technique that no one used right now.
Yeah.
And he was like using all the blending modes and he do photos. I think if you type in YouTube, you will find this John Locke digital painting or something. You will find this video. It's super old and crappy, but I was like blown away back then that you can draw in Photoshop and on computer with like, I thought he was drawing with the mouse. Then I discovered you need the drawing tablet and stuff.
Don't get far with the mouse, do you? Before you
Yeah,
go, this is
exactly.
not working.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, it was like 2007 that I bought my first tablet, and it turns out that you need to know how to draw. That tablet doesn't.
It's not a magic wand, is it?
Doesn't draw this for you.
Yeah.
So yeah, I was like in my first year of high school, and I thought what to do next after high school, where to go. I didn't see any good way for me. Like
Sorry, first year after high school, is that what you said?
In the first year of my high school, I bought my first tablet.
Oh,
or maybe a year before.
Right, got
yeah.
it. So you're you're younger than me, right?
Yeah, I'm 30.
30. I was gonna pin it
year.
at 30. Yeah, I'm 34 this year. There you go. Okay.
Yeah,
sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah,
As you've been talking, I'm like, how old is Mathias? Anyway.
How old is he? Yeah, I'm 30 in like 2 months. 31. Ooh. 2 months.
Cool.
Yeah, going back because I lost my
sure. Sorry.
No worries. Yeah, I was trying to figure it out what to do after high school because I was barely making it in high school. I was all over the place, but not learning. And I thought like I could like maybe do some stuff with graphic design or like with concept art, but those are like early stages. In Poland, maybe in Poland there will like CD Projekt Red and Techland. Those like 2 big players back then, and few smaller companies. And I was like trying to get in. And after high school, I was lucky enough to be on this 1-year course of VFX and 3D. Back then it was like a Willy Wonka golden ticket for me.
Okay.
Because like there was the CG education in Poland was not existing at that time, so I was like super lucky that I was able to go on that course. And after that course I got my first job as a 3D artist / animator / level designer / concept artist.
Wow.
Like yeah, because the team was so small. I was working in this small indie company that was like 7 people. Half of those people were programmers, so I was like responsible for almost every aspect of the game. Those are like small games on iPad and Android, so like
wow. Okay.
Diablo bootlegs and like like those like games you can download on App Store, and like those are looking like cool games, but they're not cool at all.
They're a money maker. Yeah.
yeah. But I learned a lot. I was like happy that they saw the potential in me. And I was like learning 3D, but in my spare time I was trying to improve my concept art skills because I couldn't find a job in concept art because it was like super niche, and there was when you have like big game company or like company in general, the concept art team is usually super small, and you need more like 3D artists, texture artists, and stuff like that. That's why it was easier for me to get that kind of job.
Got it. So sorry. Yeah. So when you were working in this indie game studio, you were doing the 3D parts of it, like the making the models and
Yeah, baking textures. Yeah, exactly.
Right. Okay, I didn't know this. So you actually started with primarily a 3D background, and would you say today
Correct.
you're primarily a 2D concept? No. Okay. Wrong.
I
Wrong.
would. Yeah, it's like the hybrid. Uh,
Hybrid approach. Okay.
yeah,
And
hybrid
that's
approach. Yeah.
tell me the hybrid approach today. What do you? Maybe this is jumping forward a little bit. I was going to ask this a bit later, but what is your
Sure.
workflow today? Like when you've got a new project, could you walk me through like
Hmm.
what
Yeah,
tools
sure.
do you use? And yeah,
I use primarily Photoshop and Blender.
okay,
Uh, back back then, I was using Cinema 4D, even earlier Modo, even earlier Blender,
all right.
3ds Max, and Maya.
Oh wow, you've touched
So yeah,
everything,
yeah,
right?
and I
Okay,
feel like it's a like uh, yeah, I feel like sometimes I feel like a Swiss Army knife.
yeah.
But
It sounds like you've got a broad range of skills.
yeah,
Do
that's
you think
correct.
that's helped you? Do you think would you advise that's a good idea to follow?
Uh, I don't know, depending on the uh, how much frustration you can bear.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and also I feel like it's easier when you are like focused. I'm pretty sure you're familiar with the T-shape, not Carrera skills, but the T-shape skill level. Like you're like broad uh, in many areas, but you have like this one area that you are expert in, like T-shape.
Oh, I haven't actually heard of that. Okay, I gotta
Oh,
look
okay.
that up.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah. Uh, yeah, my expertise looks more like a comp, like the hair. Never mind.
Okay.
Yeah, I have many those
Okay. Okay. Got it. Got it. And when you
those
say
things.
it depends how much appetite you've got for frustration, to paraphrase,
Yeah, yeah,
you mean like
I would say.
when you're learning lots of skills, you have to be prepared to fail a lot
Yeah,
across all of
yeah,
them.
yeah. There is
Yeah.
a lot of there is a lot of failing, and I feel like sometimes it feels like you are not moving at all because you're like trying to spin all those plates, like
Yeah.
juggling all those things to
Yeah.
all at the same time. That's why I'm slowly. I feel like it was partially because I wasn't sure what I want to do
Mm.
in terms of like my future or whatever,
Mm.
and 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 it is fun to try new stuff. I don't
Mm-hmm.
know. Uh, yeah, I get pulled in many directions all the time, so
I
it's like a blessing and a curse.
Yeah, I definitely feel like it is a uh, I would recommend it definitely to like new artists because like I can tell like you meet those like you go to a convention and there's like some young kid there and he's made an entire short film by himself. He did the
Yeah, exactly.
designs, he did the characters, the rigs, the environments, the compositing, that kind of thing. And I'm like, how long did you spend on this? It's like, oh, like every night for the last 2 years or something. And like it's
Yeah,
not very good, but it because it doesn't have to be. The point is that he's learned the entire
the whole
breadth,
pipeline.
the whole
Yeah,
pipeline, you know.
yeah,
So he knows if he was to be hired for even just like modeling immediately at a studio, he would know, where it fits. He knows that he has to work it off of a concept. He knows that
yeah,
it has to be, riggable, has to be animatable down the line. Whereas if
yeah,
somebody just followed modeling and was like, I'm going to be a great modeler, if you don't have even like a basic knowledge of the full pipeline, you'll always
yeah.
be shackled and like just
And
muted in
also
how
like
far you can
people,
go.
yeah, and also like people like to go into like real extreme. Like you mentioned, I want to be a modeler, but people go like, I want to be a modeler and I want to make a mech or
Oh yeah, yeah,
I don't
yeah.
know, sci-fi cyborgs
Yes.
only.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah, that
Or,
as well is when they go too
or
niche
I
too
want to
early.
only sculpting because I don't want to do retopology or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so the problem with that is if you just learn the sculpting and you don't touch any retopo, you'll in a studio can't use you as much as somebody who knows the full thing, or like what's the yeah.
Exactly. I mean, if you go to extreme and you will be really really good, people will hire you only for sculpting. But I
Yes.
feel like it will take as much as time as and frustration as learning more broadly and trying to fit in quicker into the company pipeline.
Yeah,
I don't
definitely.
know. There is a lot of approaches
Yeah.
how to skin the cat.
Yeah. And I think it also like it varies so much of the obviously the size of the studio. You said when you were at a
Yeah,
studio
that's
with
correct. And
7
the
people.
country,
Oh, and the country. Okay.
I would say. Yeah.
Yeah. So when you've got a small team, the the CEO of this operation needs to be able to say like, "Hey, can you do some retopo? Like, can you do rigging? Can you do animation?"
Yeah.
And the more skills that you have, excuse me, excuse me, the more skills that you have, the more the more value you add to the company, and the more that you will grow. So I've realized owning my own company at Polygon now that like some of
Yeah.
the best people that have gone really far in the company are people that have dabbled with everything, and they've been like, I can do
Yeah.
this, I can do this, and like, do you know how to like, can you use Houdini to like, do an
Yeah.
auto
To break stuff down.
yeah,
Yeah.
and they'll be like,
Instead of
yeah, I
hiring
know a
another
little bit,
person.
I'll figure it out. Yeah, exactly. Because if you have to hire somebody, that realize that is a very time consuming. Like it could take a month from when we asked you, like, can you do that thing? And then they said no. It could
Yeah.
take an entire month to find the right person. And for that whole month, the project has stalled. Whereas if a
Yeah.
person is like, I'll figure it out on the weekend, and they like learned Houdini or something, that's like, oh my God, this guy is a lifesaver.
Yeah.
He's going to get all the cool projects from now on. Like, we want to keep him around. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know.
When I talk with artists, I always say that portfolio is your like entry ticket, but after that you are like you almost selling an insurance policy. Like,
Okay. Explain
uh,
that.
based on your like LinkedIn and your recommendation, the company will say we want to work with this guy because he's reliable. He's always on time. He can learn on the job and yeah, stuff like that. So you're
Oh, you mean like
giving them.
over the years, like after a decade, and you've got all these recommendations and this like resume of
Yeah,
work. It's like a
they
surefire
paying
bet
for.
when a company they're like, we don't
Yeah,
know
they
really
paying
what
for
we're doing,
insurance.
but we know
Yeah,
that this guy knows what he's doing, so we'll throw the money
yeah,
at him so that he can.
or he will figure it
Right.
out.
Yes, yes, exactly. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's really true. Yeah. So okay, so we got a little off track there. So okay, so going back,
No worries.
so after your first gig at this small
Yeah,
indie studio making iPad games,
yeah.
where did you go from
They
there?
fired me.
They fired you. What happened?
uh, I wanted to work part time and I was too expensive.
Oh, okay, got it.
I
And they
mean
said,
I was,
nah.
yeah, I was I wanted to add a bit of like you know the down arc of my story.
Oh yeah, that's right.
So
Then you
it's
need the
not
redemption
like
arc. Yeah.
rainbows and unicorns, you know.
Yes, got it, got it. Okay. Was it a mutual? Did you leave on good terms, or was it?
Yeah, it was all right. It
Oh,
was
okay.
okay.
Well, yeah,
Yeah.
that's all right then. Okay. So what happened after that?
After that, I was trying to. Excuse me. I was trying to do a bit of freelance, but I was like 22 or 23, and I didn't have any idea what I was doing.
Okay.
I didn't know much about taxes. I didn't know how to find, gigs and stuff. Luckily, I was found somewhere online by this other company from the city, and I was hired this time as a concept artist. And luckily, when I was like talking about the terms of the work, I asked them if it's possible for me to work part-time for them. Mm-hmm. And they said yes, and it was great because I was like working 20 hours a week. So yeah, like half part-time.
Okay.
And the rest of the time I spent like improving my skills, basically.
Wow. That's an interesting approach. So you knew at that time that whilst you're working at a studio, you're not necessarily growing as fast as you could if you were also working your skills on the side. Okay. That's interesting.
Yeah.
To have that awareness at that age, at that point in your career.
I feel like it's because the experience from the previous company that I wasn't necessarily growing in the company.
Okay.
I realized that. I mean, now I know this, so I can tell you. But for me, all the work experience is just a way to buy me time to do my own stuff.
Okay. Wow. Okay. Yep. So you find actually at a studio, you are. Would you say today at a studio you're not learning as much as fast as when you're working on personal projects?
Yes.
Right.
For like last 5 or 6 years, I'm working as a freelancer for various companies, and I would say when I'm working like as a freelancer, people hire me for certain things. And there is no time on a job to learn new stuff.
Right.
So, and most of the gigs I get from the companies are based on the stuff people saw online, and usually like 80 or 90%, those are like personal projects.
Right. So they're hiring you for your strengths, and you don't have time to work on your weaknesses. So your personal projects, you can work on, you can do exercises.
Finding the pipeline.
Right. And like, I really need to learn anatomy. No one's going to hire me for anatomy yet. But
no one will hire you for learning.
Yes, exactly. Got it.
I mean, if you are like working in the studio, you can learn from your peers, and that's great.
Yes.
But if you're like freelancing, you're like mercenary.
Right.
You need to be well skilled and like just go and kill the enemy.
Right. Okay. Got it. So when you're, because that's kind of the inverse of what I actually thought. I kind of thought that people that are working at a studio, maybe it's different with freelancing, but I kind of thought like if you're in a studio with other artists and they're all at like, top level, like if you're at like Blur or Disney or Pixar or something like that, and you're making, your skill set, let's say you're a character artist or an environment artist or something like that, then the people that in your team are also really good at that skill. So they're going to give you feedback and you would rise to their level and you would improve at a faster rate than maybe even if you were at a school or if you were definitely training by yourself. But now you're saying it's that's not the case. You're potentially not learning.
I only have like 2 studio experience.
Okay.
And those are like 2 that I mentioned before. So like the first
the early ones
game company, and then there is like this cinematic / advertisement company that I was working on.
But you're working remotely freelance, and that's a different experience.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Exactly. Got it. I feel like sometimes I feel like I'm on the lonely island, and just people sending me stuff in the like message in the bottles, and then I send it back.
Put it on the pigeon, where it goes. Yep.
Yeah. It feels lonely sometimes, but there is more pros than cons, in my opinion, working remotely.
Yeah. Got it. Okay. So what would you say to any, because you can see across ArtStation, and you go to a conference, and not everyone is able to do what you've done. A lot of people don't even get that first job, or they get a job and then they just sort of coast. What makes you different? What would, if you had to sort of, separate the people that go really far in their career versus the ones who don't? Is there any sort of, I don't know, trait that comes to mind?
I don't know, but if I would say for me was the curiosity, and I feel like I'm not necessarily interested in the final image. I'm more interested in process. So like I like to solve puzzles, and art is one big puzzle to solve.
Okay, that's good. Yeah.
So if I'm struggling on something, and it finally clicks, I take a great satisfaction out of it.
Huh. Right.
It's not like the cool painting. It's a byproduct of me trying to figure it out, this jigsaw puzzle.
Okay. Yep.
Yeah. So maybe that some people are like to just paint because this is like the expression of their inner self or whatever. I don't know. But for me, I really like to figure stuff out.
And when you say figure it out, is it like you're figuring out how to make it better, or is it like the technical side of things? Like,
I would say how to make it better, and sometimes it's how to make a feeling, evoke emotion in some people, in people with the artwork. Sometimes it's that. Sometimes it's a clearly like the technical skill, like how the light bounce off the surface, or the colors or whatever.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's animation or whatever. Yeah, like I really like this puzzle aspect of art.
Mm-hmm. And I mean that is the question, isn't it? Of course, is like, how do you make better art, right? It's what every artist is, I suppose, trying to figure out. Were there any, like, what helped you during this process when you were like, you have that experience where it's like, this art just, I put everything into this and it's not resonating with the audience. People don't like it. And then you look at somebody else and you're like, it's just, I don't know what it is, something about it. So how did you figure it out? What was the path?
It's hard to judge this because of the algorithm on social media. So you're not entirely sure it was your fault, or you use a wrong hashtag or wrong timing or whatever.
Right. Well, let's say it's like no algorithms. You're showing someone face to face at a convention, and you could just tell looking at people's faces. They're like, you know. Whereas, like, you could tell another one, or even just yourself, objectively, right? Because everyone has good taste, even if their skills are poor. You can tell that yours is not up to the standards of a master. Yeah.
Are you familiar with Taste Gap?
Yes.
Yeah.
By I think Ira Glass, he had that. Look it up on YouTube, guys, if you haven't seen it. Ira Glass, talk about the Taste Gap.
Taste Gap.
Yeah, I'll put a link
I feel
in the
like
description.
when they type Taste Gap in Google, they will find it easily. But yeah, I would say this is probably like the you always want to the equilibrium between taste and the skill, but you never will go there. You will never arrive. But in terms of like improvement, like regiment or what helped me when it comes to getting better with art, it all depends on the subject, I would say, but I'm pretty sure you're familiar. Like there is this, when you're like playing on guitar, you can play. There is a lot of songs you can play with 4 chords.
Oh yeah, I've heard that.
I'm pretty sure like there are a few fundamentals in art that you can grind over and over, and you'll be better at them, like perspective, composition, like everything is a fundamental, and how you put those together creates a great artwork. Some people focus more on perspective. I would say from that style will emerge, where you are putting your focus on. Like there is a lot of people like drawing faces because they're like obsessed with drawing faces, or like me, I like to draw environments, and like I like to paint, play with colors and lighting.
Yeah.
And the more emphasis you put in each fundamental, from this the style will emerge. And what helped me a lot, what?
Oh, sorry. I agree with that. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. And what helped me a lot with getting better with painting and drawing and stuff like that was creating a project. Either it could be a one painting or a series of paintings.
Yeah.
And I would create a sketch, or I try to paint an image straight from imagination.
Okay.
Like the whole image.
Okay.
And I would record the whole process and record how much time I spend on it. And then I would took apart parts that I don't like from this painting, or the whole painting. I didn't like how it turns out. And I would study each element separately from the photos or from the 3D model, whatever helps you. It all depends on the problem you have. When you have like problem with perspective, you need to work on those. And if you have a problem with colors, you need to paint more and stuff. You get the whole idea. And then I would retest this small section from imagination to test my knowledge and what I understand, if that was a blind copy, or did I investigate this subject clearly?
Yeah, yeah. So as an example, like you might, from imagination, create a hill scenery with some trees and clouds and whatnot. You would do it all. You
Mountains,
finished, and then you would break down each one and go, I'm just going to learn how to make trees amazing, and then the next week hone in on clouds and do cloud studies, and
and then you start to piecing those things together.
Right, that's really
and
good.
It's also like it's really good to record everything, at least in my experience. Like like you have a boxing match or like soccer a tournament or whatever. They would always record everything, and they will rewatch the boxing match in slow motion to find the weak spots you have.
Right. Yes. Okay. So you would record like with OBS or something, record your screen,
exactly,
and then play it back. And what do
you can play it
what
back,
do you learn from that?
What?
Sorry. Yeah. So what? Because I would imagine, like, I think I've done it in the past, but I find like I spent like 3 hours modeling a chair, and like then I spent an hour on the lighting. Like, how do you evaluate that recording after to learn from it?
I would ask myself what was necessary and what was just like the noodling. Like I wasn't sure where I was going. I was like, playing around. You want to go straight to the point. If you have a problem with something, just find a reference, try to, again, break stuff down, try to understand how this works, why the light hitting this way, or why the vanishing point is here and there. And it also works for there's this Feynman technique when you are like trying to explain someone, like trying to teach someone. You write everything down on a piece of paper, like you are trying to teach a 5-year-old.
Yep.
And if you're like stuck in the middle, you need to shore up your understanding on this particular part, and you go like from ground up.
Yeah, that's really, really. I totally agree with that. In fact, actually, it's a.
I mean, you're teaching online, so it was probably beneficial for you to condense and prioritize and like put in those like boxes what you are trying to achieve with tutorial. And
absolutely, yeah. A brief interlude to that chat with Mathias. If you are a 3D artist, you probably already know this, but if you want to make good images, one of the crucial aspects of that is having good assets. I'm talking about textures and models and HDRs. There is a wealth of assets out there on multiple marketplaces that you can pull from already. You already know them, TurboSquid and the like, right? Two-sided marketplaces. Those are great. Problem is consistency. When you download it, there's a 50-50 chance it's not going to work because the texture's stretched or there's not enough detail where you need it. Polygon solves that. Polygon is my company that I created with a team of artists that we have been honing and improving and working on our processes and trying to make the best assets, the industry standard, the gold standard for assets. So you can find ultra sharp photo scan grounds, concrete panels for ArcViz, rock scans. We've got a whole bunch of plants, which we used this hybrid photo scanned method with some procedural details, and it comes out to some of the best looking plants, in my opinion, on the market. So we go through all of this R&D and we figure out how to create high quality assets so that you don't have to, and so that you can come to it with the trust that the asset that you're buying and that you're downloading is actually going to be high quality. So that is Polygon, Poliigon, polygon.com, where you can sign up for a free account and try out some of our free assets and see the difference that it can make to your images. So let's get back to that interview with Mathias. Yeah, I think I've said it.
I'm pretty sure
100 times on this podcast, but yeah, like that skill of like, yeah, I know something, like, yeah, I know how to do that, and then it's like, okay, explain it to me. And
exactly,
you frequently discover like, oh, I actually don't know that. I thought I did, but like now I'm trying to put it into words. I've got huge gaps in my knowledge. And then when you actually try to understand it, you often find that you had it completely wrong. You completely misunderstood it. So by diving into it head first, you go like, oh wow, now I actually know what I'm talking about, or now I know the correct way. In fact,
also go on. Sorry,
I was going to say in job interviews, actually, we're hiring for a number of positions at Polygon now, and like that is something that we do is like we ask people to explain, what are the fundamentals of like marketing? What is effective marketing? What are some mistakes in marketing? And their answer to that will very quickly reveal whether they've thought through these concepts. And then when you've got someone who's got those answers ready, it's like, this guy knows what he's talking about, But anyways.
Especially when the answers are super condensed and are on point. Mm-hmm. Like, he drilled this over and over, and the answer gets smaller and smaller, but in the same time you get the
raw essence,
the dosage, the essence, exactly.
Yeah.
That's great. And what I was trying to say was like with the recording, you get the time of the recording, you know exactly how much the time you spend on it. So sometimes you have those downside moments when the taste go all the way up, but the skills didn't went up. Mm-hmm. But in those moments, you can go back to those recordings and see, for example, like today, this painting looks as shitty as the painting that I did like 30 days ago or 2 months ago, but I spent like 4 times less time on the same thing. So you actually grew because you spend less time on making similar image in the similar quality.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So you have this evidence in a recording.
Yeah, that self-assessment phase I find is if you're learning by yourself, it's critical because when you're at a school or working with if you've got a mentor, somebody to throw ideas at, they can assess your image and then point you into a certain path. If you don't have that, you have to be your own mentor, which sounds like not possible, but it is. If you break it down, as you said, these exercises that sound boring, like an exercise for art, but like making something from memory, reassessing it, breaking each piece down, or going, I'm now just going to focus on perspective and really improve perspective because I've assessed this is one of my weak spots. If you don't do that, you end up just like making finished piece after finished piece, and you can improve that way, and you surely will, but it'll be at a much slower rate.
There is a lot of people improving this way, but it all depends on your sensibility. It's more as a, like, try it and think for yourself if this is working or not for you. Mm-hmm. It's not for everyone. Like, there is a lot of extremely skilled artists that are not doing the things I'm doing.
Yes.
And they are still super, like, extremely successful.
For sure, yeah. Everyone's got a different
exactly
path. Yeah. Yeah, that's great. Okay, so you basically you trained yourself.
Yeah, that's correct. I mean, I took a few classes here and there, but you asked me what helped me a lot. So yeah.
No, that's great. That's great. Let's talk about design. Good design in art. Shape language, balance, that dynamic word. It just feels dynamic.
I have no idea. I make pretty pictures. I have no idea about design.
But looking at your art, I mean, there clearly is good design that goes into the shapes and the balance. I'm sure that a lot of it comes with just experience, and your eye just gets used to going like, I put a big tree here and then I put a small tree on this side because it balances, and the shape of it, if I make it a curve, it sort of wraps around it and makes a frame or something. You sort of develop that. But so are you aware of any resources or ways to improve design?
I mean, when I'm thinking about design, I have either graphic design or industrial design.
Okay.
Like the car designs and stuff like that. But when I'm thinking about like environment paintings or like backgrounds and like the stuff that I do, I mostly thinking about composition and contrast.
Yeah.
That's like the two main things that I think.
Okay, composition and contrast. Right.
Yes.
Composition.
Correct.
Let's talk about that.
Sure.
What? I know there's rule of thirds, the golden spiral, which I think is BS.
Yeah.
I don't think, I haven't seen any proof that that's real. But anyways, that's a whole other thing. What other, like, how do you think about composition? Are you like strict, like it's got to match up with the rule, or is it just a general sense of balance and focal element?
I would say it's for me. Usually, it's about the contrast on few levels or on every level. So like dark and light, warms and cools, like the colors. Edges, soft edges versus hard edges, small shapes versus big shapes, spiky shapes, or like texture versus like flat surfaces. There is a lot of tools you can pick and choose depending on the image that you are trying to achieve.
No, so is it that having that contrast of, let's say, soft shapes, hard shapes, just as a basic example, having a mixture of both in it creates a more appealing design? Is that the general gist of contrast?
I would say so, but in the same time, you want to emphasize one of them.
Okay. So not a 50-50,
so
you got to go 80% maybe one and 20.
Yeah, 80-20 or yeah, like just eyeball it or
yeah.
I don't know. Yeah. Try to figure it out. I mean, not try to figure it out, by more like play around with it and feel it. It's been a while since I was like trying to understand composition, so maybe my knowledge is a bit dusty, if you can say that. So yeah, it's definitely good to play around with those tools, like soft and like complex and simple and flat shapes and textury surfaces.
Tell me if. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, go on.
I was going to say, tell me if this is right. Like, if you've got a scene with like lots of spiky shapes, hard, spiky, sharp edges, and then you've got a soft form, maybe the character's soft, let's say.
Yeah.
That brings emphasis. The character stands out against this world
Yes,
of
correct.
spikiness. So that's a way to bring focus to an element.
The focus on the like the aperture in a camera. Everything is blurry except of one thing that it's in focus.
That's sharp, right?
Yeah, that's sharp. Yeah.
Okay, got it. And so, same with textured versus plain. If you've got everything that's textured, and then you've got plain, but then you've also got the the rules of design in that you want to have areas for your eye to breathe, and eye to rest. Yeah. And that just comes with what? Just years of experience knowing where to have I don't know.
It not always need to be like that, I would say. Okay. That you need a place to rest. Maybe the place to rest is your focal point. Like everything is textury and noisy, and your focal point is like this flat shaded character.
Mm-hmm. Got it. Yep.
It's there are no rules, just tools. So you need to pick and choose, and there is always a stronger answer to the question. If you know what I mean.
Yeah. I feel that there's a.
It's not right or wrong. It's always stronger or weaker answer.
Got it.
When it
I because there's this, like when you look at tutorials for composition, for example, a lot of the material out there, including my own that I made 5 years ago on composition, it's all regimental rule based. This looks amazing because it's like right on this line, and this curves around and it guides your eye to this kind of thing.
Yeah.
And it's but it's not clear to me now, looking at composition, for example, if it's justifying after the fact a great piece of work that lines up with my rule, or if that piece is actually good for the reason that I said. Do you know what I mean? Like look at this amazing picture. It's like everything lines up with the rule of thirds, just as a basic thing. It's like, okay, but what about the 99 other images out there on the internet where they also line up with the rule of thirds and they don't look good? So clearly there's something else going on there, or maybe it's even a fluke that this one just happens to line up, and I find that, like, often when I'm just exploring ArtStation, like I'm like, I don't know, just for fun, I'm like, does this actually, like, could you actually break this piece down to a set of rules? And usually you can't, right? Like, it's not following rule of thirds. It's just a character. It's just lit really interestingly. And, it's got a clay shader, and it's got this dark mooding kind of thing. And there's no compositional appearance to it. There's no rule following. It just seems to, and I don't know. I feel like more so it's about balance and focus, as in, like, the rule of thirds. I think the only reason the rule of thirds actually is talked about, I could be wrong, the reason it's ever mentioned is because it forces the photographer, in a basic example of, like, not having the horizon line at exactly 50-50, it makes it because if it's at 50-50, your eye is like, it's got that dual focus, doesn't know whether to focus on the sky or focus on the landscape.
Yeah.
Whereas if at least you put the sky up to the top third, then it's showing the viewer that your emphasis is on the two thirds.
It's like the rudimental composition tool that you are like. It's like the easiest way to create a contrast. You have like more on top and less on bottom.
Yeah.
So you have like two big shapes. One is bigger than the other. When you put the horizon line in in the middle you have two similar shapes that are like boring.
Fighting
I would
against each other.
recommend
Yeah.
when it comes to composition, I would recommend this book.
The Visual Story by Bruce Block. I'll put
Yeah,
a link to that in the description.
The cover is ugly, but there is a lot of useful information in this book in terms of composition, and it's like it's super simply he explained stuff super simply, and he breaks down every rule and how to create contrast, and he shows the examples from movies, from like the screen grabs from the movie, because it's like for the film and TV and digital media. So it's
Great.
not that's why there is
not
much awareness in concept art or like 3D community about this book, but it's great. It's really good.
Okay. Are there any other? You seem to have a lot of books behind you. Are there any few there that you would recommend? Just improving art in general.
People don't talk much about this book.
How to See Color and Paint It by who's the author?
Arthur Stern.
Okay, great.
And it's like a series of projects designed to open your eyes to color you never saw before. It's like 50 exercises.
Oh, great! Exercises.
Like from the easiest to super advanced. Every exercise is based on still life.
Yeah.
And you start I think you start with the simple box. Right, wait.
Mathias,
I think I showed you the
leafing through
No,
the
you
book.
start with the toilet paper.
Okay. How dark
Lit
is
from
light?
above on the red piece of.
And it's exercises, so what, like you would actually get out your paint or your stylus and...
Or you can do this in Photoshop as well. Just set up a small still life near on your desk.
Great.
But it's about like how the light bounce from the surface. That's why when I showed you, there was this cube with backgrounds made of all primary colors like red, blue, and yellow.
Yeah.
So you start to see how the light bounce around and behave, bouncing off each of the primary colors, how they mix together, and you go from like super simple, like a toilet paper on a red thing, and towards like a chrome saucepan or whatever. Like you have the reflections, you have the colors, you have the additional light sources, and they're like there is like this really. I really like this because it's like this really step-by-step learning curve in this book, which is pretty great.
That sounds great. I'm definitely going to buy that. Do you tell me what you think about this? Because like I've often wondered, a lot of those exercises and like the theory about lighting, it kind of feels. Is it less necessary for a 3D artist, given that a render engine it now does all the bounce, and your color pipeline will do the correct, the darkness, you can create the I don't know, how necessary would you say it is for a 3D artist to learn about lighting fundamentals, let's say, in that sense?
I would say every 2D artist should learn 3D, and every 3D artist should learn a bit of 2D.
Okay.
There is a reason why people hire concept artists to create color keys, like the concept painting of the lighting. because it's quicker to give a blueprint to the lighter to recreate the feeling of the concept, instead of like lighter sitting here and playing around with lights and trying to come up with some cool solution.
Tell me, what is a color key?
Color key is like you take a play blast render, like the screen grab from the viewport, and you paint it over in Photoshop to create a mood or like a lighting scenario.
For just and is it for like a sequence of shots? Is that generally when it's used, or is it just one still?
Depending on the project, when you have like a movie, they would do like a color script, which is like a whole movie in thumbnails with the color information.
Right.
And when it's where it's like a advertisement, they would do a few. Or if you like working on a cinematic, you would create a color key when they have a problem with, they don't know how to light a scene, so you come up with few solutions because it's quicker to paint over stuff in Photoshop rather than render. I mean, nowadays it's quicker because of the real-time engines and stuff, but it's still pretty useful.
Yeah, got it. And with this color key, so it's a, do you get basically a set of 3D viewport screenshots, and then you're the one who then just opens up Photoshop and you're just painting, and
or
that's what you're doing?
I usually ask for the 3D. Because for me it's easier to separate. It's just my workflow. I like to separate things, or like foreground character on the separate layer, because it's faster
just
to
easier
paint.
to paint. Yeah, than like marking everything. Yeah, got it.
Yeah.
And then that color key, how strictly is it adhered to by the actual lighting artist? Are they like trying to get the exact shade of shadow that you've got, or is it more just like a suggestion of like, this is the...
Depending on the production, if the color key is so cool that the director will say, yeah, we want this, they will do one-to-one replica of the color key. I have few examples on my art station. I really always really happy when the color key is super close to the final results. Sometimes it's like 90-95%, like the screenshot from the animation, which is always like flattering, and I'm super happy when they're doing this. I know that I did a good job.
That's great. Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
Okay. And then that, obviously, it's so the concept artist is the one that they go to, because a 3D artist would take longer with lots of revisions back and forth to create an appealing lighting design. Okay.
Yeah, and usually all the textures are not done yet, and I usually paint over the grayscale models without textures and stuff.
Got it.
So it's even harder for 3D artists without those information to light a scene properly.
Right.
And with that concept, he can only focus on execution. He have a blueprint ready to light, like the reference. So he just make a study basically to match the lighting.
When you're looking at a concept artist portfolio, how can you tell when they've got that skill? Like, what separates a average concept artist to one who really understands that color key process, in your opinion?
You surprised me with this question. When it comes to hiring, I would say it depends on the project. Like, yeah, I know I said this already a few times. It all depends, but it depends. When you are hiring a concept artist, it's I have a. I'm not sure if I can talk about it. Never mind.
Okay.
When you're trying to hire, I usually look for people that can fit into the pipeline.
Yeah.
It's not always about the pretty pictures, but it's more about how they conveying the information.
When they understand the next step in the process.
Yeah, exactly. If this concept will go to the 3D guy, how many back and forth between those two people will be necessary to finish the next step. So all the writing, all the additional references, for the texture of the material of that belt he have that is visible only from one side, like,
Yeah.
and the functionality of the, I don't know, like armor, how the pieces fit together, and yeah.
Comes
And
back to what we
with the
said at the
color,
start of like the artist that knows the full pipeline because they've done it themselves from forced to learn everything. You get that breadth of knowledge. Yeah.
Yeah, and with color keys, it's so niche, and I never hire for that position because it's usually reserved for the art director that work closely with or concept artists, like that works closely with the director or a writer, because they want to convey a mood or emotion, and this way you use certain colors to create, and the lighting to sell this this feeling.
Got it. That's really interesting. So the art director, would you say, within the team is the highest paid on the project? He's the top.
When it comes to art, I would say, yeah, production designer and art director are like the most paid job.
Okay, got it.
And it's like a ceiling. There is no next step, I would say. That's why I slowly trying to transition more towards directing and less staying on the art director side.
Right. That's where the big bucks are, right?
I guess. I mean, I try to make my own projects again. As always.
Got it. Awesome. Okay, well, I know we're running out of time, but there was one question that I like to ask every artist on the podcast to understand how you would. Basically, it's a recommendation for a learning curriculum. But if you had to train a young but enthusiastic artist to win an art competition, and you only had 6 months to train them, what would the training look like? And what if you had 2 years? Let's say, how would they differ? But let's say 6 months. What would that regime look like?
I hate art competitions.
Sure.
I hate art competitions because there are so many moving parts in it.
Yeah, you got to appeal
crazy.
to the judges, and yeah.
I mean, yeah, you can go as high as you can with the quality of the image, and let's say every artist will go super high with the quality, and there will be this one artist that the quality will be not that high, or maybe like 80% of the rest, but the idea will be brilliant.
Yes,
and he will win.
Yes. The concepts are so sticky. Because I've actually on
I
Blender
hate
Guru
art competitions.
run a lot of competitions in the past, and it's so true. When I look at one that has like just an awesome concept, like a great idea of like, I don't know, if it's
or
like a sci-fi
funny.
scene and you've got this thing and it's like it's so creative that no one thought of that, and yet technically it's just terrible. Like it could be really bad. But then you put it up next to one that's technically brilliant, but with a less good concept. And then you show other people and you go, which one do you like? Which do you think should win? They go, oh, this one is so cool. And I'm like, yeah, but technically it's not as good. And they're like, yeah, but it's just fun. And I'm like, yeah. So what are we judging it on? Technical or is it fun? Anyway, it's hard to judge. Anyways, sorry, we're getting away from the question. But let's say it's not a competition, but they just want to be a really good artist, and they've got 6 months with you. What would their training regime look like?
Think the stuff I mentioned before, it's pretty good base, which is like create a benchmark from imagination, and then try to create, like, break it down brick by brick, examine each brick if it's good or not, and put it back together in and try to focus on one thing at a time.
Okay.
It takes time. It's not like overnight success or whatever. It takes time.
And what are some of those, when you're, let's say the artist is so new that they don't even know what to break down, like if they're, what are the fundamental skills that they should be looking at when they're looking at, like, making a tree, like perspective,
I would say,
shading, where does it fit in?
I would say perspective and composition are, at least for me, the most important.
So you'd start there? For a new 2D artist, let's say, you'd start with perspective?
I would say perspective, yes.
Okay, got it.
Because it's like, if the perspective doesn't work, either everything is like floating when you have like multiple horizon lines in your painting. Even if someone is not an artist, he will feel that something is wrong when the perspective is wrong.
Definitely.
You can show it to the random person that don't do art, and they will tell you like, it's cool, but I'm not sure what's
kind of
going
flat.
on.
Yeah. It's a bit disorientating.
It's either flat or either like it looks weird. I would say
from my own experience, when I learn perspective, even when I was just like trying to learn faces, I remember there was a big turning point was when I started to just simplify the shapes down to blocky, like the nose bridge, the eye, that kind of thing, and the perspective of that. That was a huge turning point for me, which is when I really started to understand the shapes and how they actually look turned at different angles and in relation to the camera, different camera lengths and what different that does lenses to perspective. That was huge.
Yeah, definitely. There is a really cool exercise you can do, like turn the box in like 360 in perspective, or you can do a study, like you can not delete the default cube from Blender and you can like draw it in Photoshop or something and draw a few angles and then create rest angles from your imagination, like in between frames from your imagination. So now you are like trying to guesstimate where those corners of the box are.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
Like this is like the easiest one.
Yeah. Tell me if this is a good training exercise, because I actually did that in Blender, rendered out some cubes at different things, and I had it next to it, and then I tried to draw it exact, and then I put it over the top of it as an overlay to see how close those lines were, and they were off. They were wrong, and I thought this was after months of actually trying to do perspective. So I'm like, I will smash this box exercise out of the park. And the lines were like, they could be like 10 to 20 degrees off. I don't know. Have you done that? Have you found that to be helpful? Like doing the tracing?
I did that. I did that a lot. I did that a lot. It's hard.
It's
and
really
you feel
hard.
like dummy. And after a while, it's better.
Yeah.
But you need to work on that, and constantly breaking this illusion that you are right. It's a good thing to have.
Yeah.
Because you are feeling like you are doing those micro adjustments over and over again until it's right.
Yeah. And you also know along the way that the more painful the exercise is, chances are less artists have been willing to go through it. So therefore, you'll have an advantage in the career space. You will be making better work. You'll get upgraded to that coveted art director role one day. Well, this is great. I don't want to take up any more of your time because I think it's like midnight, coming on midnight.
Yeah.
So let's end it. Where can people find you?
Everywhere.
Okay. You're on Twitter, ArtStation. Where do you hang out normally?
Behance, LinkedIn, TikTok, YouTube, Instagram,
TikTok.
Facebook.
I'm gonna look you up on TikTok.
I'm everywhere.
You doing any dances?
No, only educational stuff.
It's a shame. I was looking forward to that. Okay.
No dancing. I make a promise to myself that I will hit a certain numbers of followers without dancing at all.
All right, well, let's try and help you get there. So I'll put links to all of your socials and where people can find you.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Mathias. That was great.
Thank you so much for having me.